die-cast. If you didn't have die-cast, it was considered junk. That's the reason why they was so important when they brought them over here, that they kept the die-cast aspect on them.
Right.
So,
because otherwise it's just plastic, and it's
Yeah.
right.
There is an aspect if it's plastic, it kind of feels like it's cheaper.
Yeah, the mindset, especially after like World War II and everything, is here in the U.S. is like, oh, it's plastic's junk, because they still made cars were all steel, the bumpers were steel, everything. So if you didn't have an aspect of metal on that toy, it was considered garbage. Right. So that was one of it was so important. That's why it was so important to have that aspect of die-cast on those toys. It's like, hey, these are quality, and it was a selling point for a lot of toy manufacturers.
Yeah, I can't get his foot out, but trying to get that stinking foot out. But
all right, so we are actually joined by someone who actually worked, has been, was been, is with, and does stuff with Hasbro, and that's Hawk Sanders here. Welcome aboard, Hawk. Hopefully you're not muted or anything. Can you hear us?
Hey, Bobo, what's up?
Hey, what's up?
We got big
get off the roof too.
And the roof's broke down.
The show's getting bigger and bigger every year. Every episode.
That's right. That's right. Bringing in all my friends.
Yeah. Now to iterate.
That toy came in from a really bad place. I have to put some cleaner on my hand. But I was like,
but to iterate,
it was in somebody's attic for a long time.
So we don't want to quite know where that shipped from, huh?
You might want to bring your screen a bit closer, buddy. Hawk. Yeah, zoom your like come closer to the screen or something.
Oh.
Yeah, Hawk's got his special juice today.
I got as always, my special juice. This is a sunrise, is what I'm having tonight.
Nice.
Right.
I'm enjoying Coke Zero.
This smells like coconut rum in there.
Coke Zero. It tastes kind of like Diet Coke, but not quite like Diet Coke, and not quite like real Coke.
Well, I'm drinking tea, so
there you go.
I've got espresso. I mean a latte, whatever. But I also have a Red Bull for kick up later on if I start feeling a bit down, get some wings going on. Now, we're talking about Transformers. We've been talking about the characters. We talk about differences. Now we get onto the actual manufacturing side of things. Now, with the knowledge about Hasbro with Hawk, do you want to give us a bit of history on how, like I was going to call him Bobo. That's because I actually have a short story that's coming out as part of our Robot Nations two short story book, and one of them's called The Trouble with Bobo. So, right?
Oh, there's a lot of trouble with Bobo. There's a lot of trouble with Bobo.
Yeah. So that's kind of got me there. But so, do you want to talk about that a bit there, Hawk?
I went to Otis College of Art and Design, which is, most people know that as Otis Parsons, and I got my degree in toy design. Is where I got it, out of Los Angeles. So I worked for Leonard Toys, was my first. No. I worked for Hot Buttered Elves first as an internship, and then I did Leonard Toys as my second internship, and eventually I went back and worked for Leonard Toys underneath Blake Nichols, and I worked on the Leonard Leonard toy lines that they had running at the time. And most people know those as kind of like knockoffs of the big brands, is what it is. But they had actually begun to establish their own market, for everything set up. And eventually I kind of made my way around all of the toy places, and including Disney. And while I was at Hot Buttered Elves, I got to work on some Hasbro product and some Mattel product, and eventually ended up at Mattel underneath the Hot Wheels brand as the senior playset designer for Monster Jam. And from there, I went to Pillow Pets, and then it's a lot of freelance off and on different things. So I think what a lot of people don't realize is that this is you talk about the way the product is made. and how it's set up. There's a lot of engineering that goes into it. It's not a quick process. Even with the way the things are set up today, it's still not a quick process. And when you're mass producing product, it takes time. So it's usually about a year or more to get a product done. There's a lot of intricate parts that have to be thought out and engineered as well as designed. And each one of those is a different person that's stepping in, as well as a brand manager to make sure that you're on key if you're working on a licensed product. And so there's a lot of things, a lot of factors that are moving at all times before that product gets to the shelf. And then even after it gets to the shelf, there's still marketing and everything else that's still in motion as you may be in production of those lines. Now the plus side of toy making is that mold making and production has gotten easier today than it was 30 years ago. 30 years ago, it was a monumentous feat, to get this produced in China. And a lot of the molds had, for our favorite toys coming out of the 80s have long been destroyed, in order to make new product. They usually, if no one claims them or picks them up, and depending on the factory, sometimes they'll grind them and melt them down and make a new mold from them, So there's a lot of mishap that happened with all those original parts, and finding if you even still have an original mold that's any good at this point 30 years later is a big thing as well. So now it's much easier with 3D printing and all the processes in which can shave off a lot of time. I wouldn't be surprised if the G1 Transformers were probably 2 years or more in production, back in 83, 82. They were probably
a lot of they just took the molds from Japan on those, so they were ready to go. So they were just
the robot. They had taken a lot of Robotech, and what was it? There was another line, Micro. What was that?
Micronauts line.
Yeah, Micronauts line.
Transformers was actually a spinoff of Micronauts. The actual storyline is.
But so some of that stuff was already ready, but they were integrating their own product pretty quick. Was there any? Was it? There was quite a few Generation 1 that were original product, wasn't there?
What do you mean by original product from Diaclone?
That they concept and designed themselves, and it didn't.
It wasn't till 86 to 85, 86 they started actually doing their own. Like we was talking about Hot Rod, which would be Rodimus. Excuse me, Rodimus.
Yes, that's my favorite. Hot Rod Cup, Rodimus. Yep.
Rodimus Cup and Springer and them guys. They were all Hasbro ideas that they got together with Tommy Tomei on to do it. But Tommy Tomei always had the final say on them, and it wasn't until that towards the end of the series that they actually bowed out and moved away. Whenever they started coming out with the Action Masters and stuff, and the Pretenders, that's pretty much when they bowed out, and they're like, "Well, you just kind of have to do your own thing on that." The last thing I think they had a hand in with was with the Power Masters, because they actually carried that series over to Japan.
Yeah, and I remember we talked about it at some point that there was an entire, where the series ended in the U.S., it continued on in Japan. Yeah, like they never stopped over there; they just kept going, kept the roll.
So this is a Tommy line you're talking about, right? This is the brand.
Yeah, Tommy Tomei.
Yeah, so the Tomei, and then there's Takara. I think Takara would be the superhero line, whatever. But I mean,
Takari Tommy Tomei is what it is, the full name. And if you look at the Transformers G1, it actually says Takari on the inside of their legs and stuff.
Yep.
But it's Takari Tommy Tomei.
I think I've got one here. I'm not sure if this is part of one of those, the ones you're talking about where it fits in with the other ones. Let me just grab this so you can see on a solo. So is this one that as part of another, another set?
That's a later. I think that's That came out in the 2000s. That's what they call a RID, or a Robots in Disguise series. I can tell by the Autobot emblem. It's actually when they tried to revive the toy line. Yeah, that's around I'd say 2000, 2001.
Mm-hmm.
Just by that sticker on it.
Right. So, do you? I mean, like I do what we call it, thrift shop hopping. Right. That's my joy once a week to do that, and pick up whatever toys I can. I picked up this week because one of my friends said, "Hey, this is at the store. Can you go and have a look? If you want it, it's only a couple of bucks." So I went down and got this. This is a Happy toy line. It's a Happy. I think it's Happy Robot or some line like this. This is just it's a walking line. The guns come off. We talk about robots here. This is nothing to do with Transformers or anything, but just a robot, right? So, and manufacturing and stuff. So you got a gun that comes off. And this one here is supposed to have come with a shield, yeah, and then it's got battery on and off switch there. If I can put this right, and so it's supposed to make sounds. And I think this thing here turns around. But I mean, you look at toy manufacturing since we got Hulk, right? Talking about toy manufacturing and stuff. The loss of all these G1 and the Diaclone molds, right? The bronze, the copper molds. We've been both Hook and I've been talking about copper molds, and I've been learning a bit about that and what that is and stuff. But imagine, for the lack of copper, they just break down all these molds from his, that we would go, why? Yet they did, and all this time, and all that's been lost to, history and stuff. I wonder if, especially for the love that people have for G1, right? If they were able to still have those, they could put them out every year or every couple of years and make a huge thing out of it. And people will be, here's my money, take my money, come on, man. That like we do with comic books, right? Old comic books and first prints and stuff like that, first appearances, take my money. But I wonder if, for people like us who are collectors, if we were there, I always think about going back in time, right? Going, listen, I'll have about 5 of those nickel and dime, X-Men #1s and all that, all those, and we'll take it Back to the Future with me and hold it in my little, safe, and we'll do that. And is there something you'd want to do that? You three gentlemen, would you have that little back to the past, future, whatever, back in time moments?
Time traveling for my hobby, you bet.
Yeah. What's your each one of you guys, what is that one treasure hunt that you'd sell your soul for to go back in time for?
Oh no, I don't know about that. There's nothing I'd sell my soul for, but
you know what I mean.
You'd sell your wife though.
Listen, I can't say this on this show. Come on now, guys. We would let Stu go first.
You let me go first. I'm sitting here thinking. I can't even think. Hold on. You gotta put me on the spot. So right now, and I've always wanted one. And especially this week, I had been looking for one on eBay, and as everybody knows, Paul Rubin passed away this week. Pee Wee Herman, and ever since that show came out, I always wanted to get a Pee Wee Herman doll. One of the little dolls. I wanted a Pee Wee Herman doll. Of course, when you're 12 or 13 years old, you can't say that that's what you want. Now that I'm in my 40s, I don't give a crap what you guys think. I want a Pee Wee Herman doll, and if I could go back in time,
well, me and Hawk had a friend that had one. Right. And he was such a despicable person as a child. He got a Serpentor one year. And poor Hawk there, he was just drooling over the Spitter. He's like, man, you got to let me have this. The Spitter. He had the chariot. He had everything, And he kept on. I mean, Hawk was after him for years about it. And finally, one day he was over there and he's like, let me have this. He tied a firecracker to it and lit it and blew it up in front of him.
Oh.
And I was like,
Oh.
Hawk come over to my house and his head was down. And he said, I can't believe he did that. He said, that was so cruel.
See, as far
But
as GI Joe stuff goes, there's really nothing that I want that I don't already have
Right.
for GI Joe. I mean, I've got the 3 Holy Grails. I've got most of the figures that I want. But as far as something that I wish I would have had when I was a kid and wanted as a kid, but never expressed it because I was too embarrassed about it, was that Pee Wee Herman doll, man. That one that with the little pull string thing, it was just, I don't know why I wanted it. I wish I would have gotten it, when I was 12 or 13 years old when it first came out, because I think it came out to advertise Pee Wee's Playhouse. And yeah, I wish I had it. Wish I had one. Now the prices are skyrocketing because he passed away this week,
With
I know what I would like to do.
mm,
If I could go back into time, I would go to that 1995, or was it 94? I think it was 94. The convention on the Intrepid, and I'd take about $2,000 to $5,000, and I would clean up on that thing. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
And to be clear, Hasbro was clearing out the line, so they sold all their prototypes and all of their stuff at that convention. And we're talking about lots and lots and lots of stuff that has now disappeared and no one really knows where it's at. There's several of those items that have just evaporated into the ether, but yeah, they sold all of their prototypes in that 94 convention.
so this is the one we're talking about here.
Yep.
Is it like? But this is like the up-to-date one. But like this is the doll that you're talking about.
Yeah, that looks like the vintage one.
So
that's
the
what I'm talking about.
1987 from Pee Wee's Playhouse, 17-inch.
Oh yeah.
There is no, currently unavailable, but I guess that's the one they were talking about. So let's have a look at what it goes for on eBay, shall we?
Yeah, go for it.
So the last one sold in July for $50. Right. So I'm sure there are still, these are still out there, and
they're still out there,
but getting your hands on them.
One, and also I got to weigh the fact of do I buy the Pee Wee Herman doll for myself, or do I buy comic books for the store?
Right.
So,
Point. Got a point.
What's that?
Well, there was also the fact where you could sell sell something and buy as a display for the store, which would be in the store, which when push comes to shove, I'm not sure how you guys do your taxes there, but could be a business write-off.
Yeah,
you get to see it every day.
Oh yeah, I got a
but
few
you
of
don't
those. Just but yeah.
All right, we'll have Hawko last. So Ben, what would you travel back in time for?
You're doing that, Aru, just because I put Big Stu on the spot. Come on now.
The one thing I always wanted, and I still don't have in my collection, is an original G1 Megatron. And then the other thing that I would do, and Hawk told me it was back in '91 when they re-released the Transformers, and they called it G2. We'd go to Walmart, and I mean they were just plastered all over the place at Walmart. And Hawk's like, "You better start getting them." I'm like, "No." I said, "I want the original. I don't want those." And I'm kicking myself over that now because even though they weren't desirable then, and even for a long time now, they are. So, and I've got a few over the years, but I really wish I'd went ahead and just got my hands on all of them when I had a chance. So,
didn't I get you that Starscream? Did I get that Starscream?
We were in Bartlesville, Oklahoma, at the mall, and you talked me into buying it. But we were there. They had two of them. The only thing I wish I'd done is I wish I would have bought both of them. The Machine War Starscream, and that would have been what, 99?
Yeah.
Is this the
Probably
one we're
was
talking
about
about here?
99.
Huh?
This is the one we're talking about here.
That's the one. That's the one that I wanted ever since I was a kid, and I still don't have one in my collection because they are just it seems like every day they go up in price. To get a decent one complete without the box is like almost $300 now.
I almost have a feeling that we at some point either had one of these, or someone close to me had one of these, like a friend.
I have a third.
I
I have a
remember
third
seeing
party
it.
one.
Yeah, I remember seeing the gun. I mean, like the actual, the sight. But
And
but I'm not sure if we actually had it in our family. I know we had a few, right? The weird thing is, we had Omicron. Was it the Omicron? The ship.
Unicron.
Unicron, right? With the white rocket or whatever. I know my brother over the years did get some of these toys, but the problem is when you have guests and other kids who do not have the same love for your toy or appreciate things that belong to somebody else, right? Who like to walk off with stuff that's not theirs. And I've been in that situation myself. So where I've been the one who's been walking away with people's toys. But I think karma is one of those things you just have to, when you grow up, you learn that karma does come back and bite you. And I think the sooner we learn that as kids, the better for us. But I kind of feel like there was a few big ones that my brother ended up having that because he's the youngest in our family. He's like maybe about 15, 12 years younger than me or my sister. But like, we used to get toys for, I'm not even sure if I was the one who bought him the toy, right? Because I was working at 19 and 18 and he was still about 10 or 8 at that point. So, but I do remember seeing this. But yeah, I mean, it was such a cool, it's weird having like a gun, a robot that turns into a gun and it's the villain of the show, yet you like it because it's something you can hold in in your hand like a gun, like a weapon.
Villains were always the coolest.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like I said, for us, as kids, we still played cowboys and Indians and things. So, we always running around with some. Every year, when I was a very little kid, my dad owned a gun shop over by St. Louis, and then we moved. He's originally from Southeast Missouri, so we moved back here when I was 5. And but every year, you can guarantee for Christmas, me and my brother would get cap pistols, and we'd get a big bag of caps. So, I mean, we always played cowboys and Indians and stuff, and it was just, I guess it's one of those things. Just that is that time, that era, because shortly after that they got really, really strict about stuff like that, in the toy lines and stuff.
And they're going around the same thing around again. It's like every couple of years, and it's always wrapped up in politics, right? And I don't like to talk about politics on here, but really, when it comes to things to do with children and with toys, with guns, and with comics, they always try to wrap that up in politics because it's all about them getting votes, and they utilize what's fun and turn it into what's about, to get votes, and we see that happen all the time here as well, and kids become like either the pull or the push when it comes to it. It's just like parents getting divorced and stuff. It's a similar thing. It's two parties basically trying to get the kids vote. Whereas it's us now. As adults, them trying to get our votes. Now, getting back to
well, we didn't get Hawks yet.
Not yet. So I'm thinking, like, is there anything else apart from toys that you would, either of you gentlemen would like go back in time for?
Oh, definitely. I would love to go back in time. I'd love to get a 19.
DeLorean.
My dream car is a 1978 Firebird Trans Am T-top convertible, honeycomb rims. Oh, that's my dream car.
All right, Benny, tell him about it.
I had an 81 Firebird I bought out in California.
Oh,
It had the and it was kind of nice and it kind of wasn't. It had the Buick V6 at 3.8, the same thing the Grand Nationals had in it, but it wasn't the turbocharged. But it had the capability to be turbocharged. Now that was a car. I'd say that was one of my favorites. Of course, I drive Mustangs now, but
me too. Mustangs are the. There's a reason they're the most popular sports car in the world because they're awesome.
Well, me and my wife, we'd been married at the time. I think about 4 years, 34 years, and the 2005s rolled out. And when I saw the 2005s, I said that is the car there because they look so similar to the original body style. And I was like, now Ford's got something there. And I didn't get one right off later on whenever I could afford it. Ended up getting a 2001, which is the body style before, and it's still built. It was still built on the Fox body platform.
Right.
But I had it a couple years. I sold it, and the next one I got was an 05, and I still.
So
got
I was driving a 1994 Firebird Trans Am when the 2005 Mustangs came out, and in 2007. I was always Trans Am, Camaro. No, I was driving a Camaro. Camaro Z28, 94 Camaro Z28, not a Trans Am, Camaro Z28, and all about the Camaros, at the time. And I pulled into the Ford dealership. I saw the Mustangs. I just said, hey, I just want to test drive one. I just want to look at it, see what it's all about. The guy says, well, let me pull this out real quick for you. He started the engine. And I'm like, well, shoot, I just bought a Mustang. He started that car up. I was like, I didn't even need to test drive it. I knew that I was going home with that car, and I was going to give them my my Camaro that day. So I traded in my 94 Camaro for the 2005 Mustang GT, and then. Few years later, when the economy collapsed, I had to give it back to the bank, and I cried, man. It was a rough day. And then last year, I was able to buy myself a 2011 Mustang 5.0 convertible. So I think Hawk has seen it. It is a nice car. It is a nice car, if I do not say so myself. But yeah.
Now, this is a 1984 Trans Am Burt Reynolds, right? So, did that have to do with why you guys wanted this car, or is this the car? Is it the right car? Am I looking at here?
This is the 85. The one I'm talking about is the body style before that, the 78 Firebird Trans Am.
The Smoky and Bandit edition.
Smoky and the Bandit Trans Am.
Smoky and Bandit edition. That's what mine was. It was the last year they made that body style, the 81 I had.
Yeah.
So. Well, it is telling me that it is Firebird 1984 Pontiac, right? So I'm not sure why it's saying it's 20. Well, you guys are saying it's 2015.
Burt Reynolds was all about the Pontiac Trans Ams all the way up until he died. But the ones that he drove in Smokey and the Bandit and Smokey and the Bandit Part 2, the first one was a 78.
Right.
And then the second one was an 80. I think an 81, actually. An 80
no,
or 81.
Right. It would have had to have been an 82 because 81 was the last year of the old body style.
Well, no. Smokey and the Bandit 2, he still had the old body style. It was either an 80 or 81. I can't remember. And then the third one was this body style that he's showing right now.
Right.
Oh, you're right. He had a 77 or 78 in the first one. The second one was an 81 because it had the same front clip as the same bumper as mine did. Right. And then 83 or the third one was an 85 that I can't think of his name drove in it.
Am I wrong to say this is like Knight Rider's car?
No, you're right.
You're right.
Knight Rider. That is what Knight Rider drove.
You're absolutely right.
The thing about Knight Rider was they got their hands on the car before it was released, and for the series, and they did that when they made a made-for-TV movie, and they did that with the new body style for the made-for-TV movie. They got their hands on the prototype before it was released.
See,
So
see,
it
Aru, and I,
has the new style.
Aru, I know that this probably isn't a big thing in New Zealand, but in America, car culture is really.
Oh
is
yeah,
really
no,
a
we
big thing.
understand. It's like in New Zealand, it's Holden and Ford. Holden's our thing, right? So like you guys are there with Mustangs and what was the other one? Dodge. Was it Dodge?
Challengers,
Dodge cars and all that.
Challenger,
Chargers,
Yeah.
Challengers.
So
Wildcat.
Chevy, sorry, Chevys, Chevrolets, and is it Ford and Chevrolet that you guys something about that? Anyway, for us, it's Holdens and Fords. So you're either a Ford person or you're a Holden person, right? So, but for myself, I was more when I was growing up as a teenager, I was more into Harley Davidsons. So cars wasn't my thing. I've never really enjoyed driving a car as much as I would, enjoy being on a motorbike. So,
I think
you
you
know,
could probably argue that
Yeah.
78 edition or a Firebird edition
Hmm.
would probably almost go for more than a Harley here in the States. You could
Yeah,
probably
it's
argue that
it's
fact.
a freaking beautiful car. The
Well,
design's immaculate.
the one they're talking about before this,
Hmm.
Pontiac actually made a Firebird or made a Bandit edition, which was actually 1 inch wider. It was just
Hmm.
1 inch wider than their normal car. And it was a specialty that they made just for the film Smokey and the Bandit. Now, the interesting part of this is while I was at Mattel, my boss was actually working on one, but he couldn't find a Smokey and Bandit edition car. So he had to take a regular Firebird and he actually cut it completely in half to add 1 inch into everything. So he would have a Smokey and the Bandit edition Firebird.
Wow.
That's how rare they are. That's how hard they are to get a hold of that car.
So we're
Yeah,
talking about
that's
this one
one.
here, yeah?
Yeah.
Yep, that's the car.
Yeah.
Oh, that's beautiful. Beautiful car.
So you're talking about the sunroof here that they cut into from the original car to make it look like that. Is that what you're saying?
The T-tops.
Yeah.
No, that was a feature for that car.
Yeah, they come
Oh.
factory that way.
Yeah, that T-tops were available all the way up until 2003
Yeah.
on the Camaros and Pontiacs. And then Pontiac went under in 2004. They didn't make any more Pontiac or any more Trans Ams after 2003.
Mm.
And then when Camaro came back in 2007, no 2010, sorry, 2007 they were showed on Transforms. But in 2010, when the Camaro finally came back, they stopped offering the T-tops. Now T-tops, I love T-tops more than I like convertibles.
Right. So the reason I'm bringing up cars and like you guys are talking about cars and stuff. So being a person who collects Batman, you cannot have enough Batmobiles, let alone enough Batman. So I've been like, I've got friggin' Batmobiles, like maybe 5-6 different types of Batmobiles over the years. And now that's made me get into Hot Wheels, right? Because of Batman. And so recently I bought the Knight Rider three set that they had for Knight Rider Hot Wheels. And then whenever I see friggin' cars now, I'm actually buying cars, right? Toy cars whenever they come up. And the weird thing is, like, it doesn't matter what they look like now. If they look cool, I'm buying friggin' toy cars. This is not cool, man. This is really not cool if you're a toy collector. That you just keep jumping onto,
Here we go.
you just keep jumping from one thing to the other thing because you have no focus on one thing. And this is where you go broke, and then you got to end up selling your stupid collection to buy something else.
Yep.
Now, it's a problem that we face as toy collectors, right? So when Hawk gets back, I'll hit him with his back in time thing. But Big Stu talked about having to let go of his precious car. And is there any precious toys that you had to let go to get other toy?
I'm at the point now. I'm at the point now that I refuse to give up my precious toys for anything. I know how to make money if the store doesn't make it, I know how I can go make money somewhere. I can go get a job somewhere. I can make ends meet. I can do what I need. But my precious toys that I hold dear will not be sold.
Yeah.
You know, they just will not be sold. And you know, and I have those put away, you know, out of the shop, and you know, they're you know, they're out there. Now there's stuff in my personal collection that'll get sold in a heartbeat. But the stuff that I've deemed like, nope, I've sacrificed too much in my 47 years. I'm not gonna do this. I'm not gonna sacrifice some of these toys, you know, because they bring too many good memories to me.
Yeah, I have the same feeling. I got like with comics and stuff, like even with toys, right? I mean, like I always get told, why don't you sell it? You'll have more money. I'm like, I don't really need the money as such, you know, in particular. And I think, but the idea is to let, you know, there's this idea of people think that because you have so much, you're a hoarder, right? The negative side of it. But they don't understand why you actually have it, or they don't want to take the time to ask you why you have them and why you collect them, why you hold on to them,
right?
And or why you got them in the first place, right? I mean, there's reasons why. Like, I mean, like I still am gutted for not being able to afford the 181 for Incredible Hulk for $80 because I wasn't able to afford it because I wasn't working because I was injured. And so I was housebound, and like there was no way I could, you know, bedbound. So there was no way I could get money to do it because there was no way I could afford to do it. And yet I missed out on that one, you know, in 2009 of all times. I missed out on it before the movies became big and all that, or before the character just blew up. But even though the character was blowing up since 89, right? 88, whatever.
Right.
For me, for New Zealand, for me when I was getting into the X-Men comics. But that loss has taught me not to let go of things. Now, in the past, I've actually given away stuff like that as worth a couple of $100 now, and I'm like, every time I look at a toy now, I go, do I really want to get, you know, pass this on? Should I hold on to it? Whenever in doubt, I just don't do it anymore. That's been my thing now. It doesn't matter what it is. If any doubt in my head comes in, no, it stays on the shelf or stays there in my collection. Ben, do you want to take you know, have a go at this one?
No, I've never traded or could sell. I had that my first collection, which was all my original toys, and then I started adding to them. And I had about 127 then, and when my house burnt, and it was years. It was a few years after that before I was kind of disgusted about it. I didn't collect anything, and then when the I'm trying to think. I think they were fixing to come out with I want to say the trilogy, the Siege trilogy. It was basically G1-esque toys. They were, you know, they were nostalgia, or whatever. And I was like, well, okay, I'm gonna start giving you. And my wife started buying them for me. I was at work and she's at Walmart, and she's like, well, I found an Optimus Prime and an Ultra Magnus, and it's like, you want them? I'm like, sure. So she kind of got me back into collecting again, because there for a long time, like I said, I was so disgusted. I lost all that, and but she got me back, and then every year, Christmas, birthdays, whatever, she got to where she would buy me Transformers. So then I got to go on to the toy shows and stuff again, and it kind of exploded. So. But no, I just can't. Wow, I can't. You know, I don't do any trading unless I've got doubles. I won't do any trading or selling or anything like that. I've actually we've got to where, you know, had a few tight times, or however you want to put it, and I've actually sold firearms. Instead of selling my toy collection, because it's easier for me to get a firearm for hunting purposes and stuff than it is to get some of these toys, because I mean some of them are out for a while and that's it. If you don't jump on them when they come out, you'll never get them. You'll have to go to places like eBay, and then you'll have to spend 3 to 4 times the price for them.
Yeah, and they keep going up. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, there is a speculator market, but they keep going up.